Hey, okay. Oh, welcome back. We, my lady and I were studying the Gospel of Mark, and we are doing a chapter a day. So we finished chapter 4 yesterday. We're moving on to chapter 5. There's 16 chapters, so in 11 days, if you keep coming back, all of us will have finished the Gospel of Mark. Yesterday, Jesus was preaching his parable of the sower. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. He who has eyes to see, let him see. Things like that. Jesus also calmed the waves, and we're moving in. Let's see. So yesterday, Jesus preached the parable of the sower to the shoreline of people while he was in the boat, and then after him and the disciples got into the boat, crossed the sea, and now we are at the point where they've crossed the sea after Jesus rebuked the storm, and we are on the other side to wherever they were going. So Mark chapter 5. A demon-possessed man healed. Then they came to the other side of the sea, Jesus and the disciples, to the country of Gadarenes. I'm not sure. Gerasenes, that's what it says in the notes. And when Jesus had come out of the boat, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit. Oh, this might be the legion. Who had his dwelling among the tombs, and no one could bind him, not even with chains, because he had often been bound with shackles and chains, and the chains had been pulled apart by him, and the shackles broken in pieces, neither could anyone tame him. And always, night and day, he was in the mountains and in the tombs, crying out and cutting himself with stones. That's interesting. Cutting himself. He was cutting himself. This man possessed with demons was cutting himself. When he saw Jesus from afar, he ran and worshipped him. And he cried out with a loud voice and said, "What have I to do with you, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I implore you, by God, that you do not torment me." Mark 5, verse 8. For he said to him, Jesus said to him, Come out of the man, unclean spirit." Then he asked, "What is your name?" And the unclean spirit answered, saying, "My name is Legion, for we are many." And the unclean spirit begged Jesus earnestly that he would not send him out of the country. Now a large herd of swine was feeding there, near the mountains. So all the demons begged him, saying, "Send us into the swine, that we may enter them." And at once Jesus gave them permission, and the unclean spirits went out and entered the swine. There were about 2,000, and the herd ran violently down the steep place into the sea and drowned in the sea. So those who fed the swine fled, and they told it in the city and in the country. And when they went out to see what had happened, then they came to Jesus and saw the one who had been demon-possessed and had the legion sitting and clothed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. So now they're in the city. And those who saw it told them how it happened to him who had been demon-possessed, and about the swine. Then they began to plead with Jesus to depart from their region. And when Jesus got into the boat, he who had been demon-possessed begged Jesus that he might be with him. However, Jesus did not permit him, but said to him, "Go home to your friends and tell them what great things the Lord has done for you, and how he has had compassion on you." And he departed and began to proclaim in Decapolis that Jesus had done for him, and all that Jesus had done for him, and all marveled. Moving to Mark 5:21. A girl restored to life and a woman healed. Now when Jesus had crossed over again by boat to the other side, a great multitude gathered to him, and he was by the sea. So Jesus preached to the shoreline, crossed the sea, rebuked the storm in the sea, landed on the shoreline, met Legion, casted it out. He went to the nearest city to proclaim what Jesus had done. Jesus got back into the boat and crossed the sea again. And behold, one of the rulers of the synagogue came, Jairus by name. And when he saw Jesus, he fell at his feet. And he begged him earnestly, saying, "My little daughter lies at the point of death. Come and lay your hands on her, that she may be healed, and she will live." So Jesus went with him. And a great multitude followed Jesus and thronged him. Now a certain woman had a flow of blood for 12 years, and had suffered many things from many physicians. She had spent all that she had and was no better, but rather grew worse. Matthew 5:27. When she heard about Jesus, she came behind him in the crowd and touched his garment. For she said, if I only may touch his clothes, I shall be made well." Immediately the fountain of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of the affliction. And Jesus immediately, knowing in himself that power had gone out of him, turned around in the crowd and said, "Who touched my clothes?" But his disciples said to him, "You see the multitude thronging you, and you say, 'Who touched me?'" So I'm assuming thronging means they're tightly surrounding him. They're just all over him. So Jesus went into the city. All these people were like, "Oh my gosh," and they started surrounding him as Jesus was moving through the city to go heal this little girl. That's when the woman came and touched his garment while he was being surrounded. Matthew 5:32. And he looked around to see her who had done this thing. But the woman, fearing and trembling, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell down before him and told him the whole truth. Hold on. My pages are stuck. The devil does not want me to continue. Mark 5:34. And Jesus said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your affliction." While Jesus was still speaking, some came from the ruler of the synagogue's house who said, "Your daughter is dead. Why trouble the teacher any further?" As soon as Jesus heard the word that was spoken, he said to the ruler of the synagogue, "Do not be afraid. Only believe." And he permitted no one to follow him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. Then he came to the house of the ruler of the synagogue and saw a tumult and those who wept and wailed loudly. When Jesus came in, he said to them, "Why make this commotion and weep? The child is not dead but sleeping." And they ridiculed him. But when he had put them all outside, he took the father and the mother of the child and those who were with them, and entered where the child was laying. Then he took the child by the hand and said to her, "Talitha cumi," which is translated, "Little girl, I say to you, arise." Immediately the girl arose and walked, for she was 12 years of age, and they were overcome with great amazement. But he commanded them strictly that no one should know it, and said that something should be given her to eat. So, interesting thing. This really highlights the value of belief. Jesus can heal and Jesus can perform miracles. God can do anything. And the woman with the affliction, all she did was believe that if she touched him, she would be healed. That's how much faith she had in him, that he was who he was. That if he could just touch him, he was so powerful, so godly, so everything, that she'd be healed. And she was right. It was her faith that healed her. Not only that, I was watching a podcast earlier, George Janko and Brandon Lake, and Brandon Lake said this woman was known as the woman with the affliction. That's who she was amongst the town. Because it says, a woman healed. Where is it? A woman had a flow of blood. It didn't give anything else about her. But he said this woman, her identity amongst the people was the woman with the affliction. But not only did Jesus heal her affliction, he called her daughter. And I believe it's one of the few times, or one of the only times, the Lord has said a phrase to somebody, daughter, my son, my daughter. Not only did he heal the affliction, but he healed her identity. And she became a daughter of God. And I think that's very beautiful. But there was one time where I have a broken nose. I broke it in high school. And I've had a lot of struggle breathing. Whenever my sinuses are inflamed, it's very hard for me to breathe. But there was one night where I just could not breathe. It felt like I was trying to breathe through like a soda straw in my face. It was just so little airflow. And I was saying a prayer. I was praying like, God, please heal my nose so I can breathe tonight, and I can sleep well knowing that I can breathe in my sleep, because I was afraid that I was going to stop breathing in my sleep because it was so hard. And before I could say amen, I felt, I don't know if you could tell, maybe the straw size passage in my nose just slowly start to expand. And then all of a sudden I can just breathe. Like I could breathe all of the air in the whole room. It was such a beautiful moment. But I knew God could heal me. And I was praying, and it came true. And the Lord touched me and he healed me. So your faith can take you anywhere. They can do anything. Just got to believe. But thank you. Tomorrow, around the same time, we'll be doing Mark chapter 6. Jesus rejected in Nazareth. Until then, we'll see ya. Ugh.